The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another killer episode of Still Toking with, no pun intended. You know who I am. Tonight's show is going to be one of those shows, I think. Yeah, it is. There's no voice in my head this week. As you all know, Mr. Holman is taking some time off from the show to move on with the next chapter of his life. But that is okay. And with me, as always, we're just going to call him Sparkles tonight. Sparkles.
You are correct, King Friday. Hi, everybody. And I was going to actually do a voice in your head but that's Jeff's thing. I don't have to do that. Happy to be. I think you're right. I think this is going to be one of those episodes. Our guest has so many stories to tell about so many things. He's written a kick-ass book about some of these things, and he's about to travel for 6 months. How lucky is this man to live this kind of a life and share it with us today? Would you please, wherever you are, either snap your fingers or clap your hands for our guest, Kieth Zlomsowitch.
I like the head nod. Yep. Yeah, I'm here, guys. Okay.
I love the confidence.
I didn't know if I was confused to start talking or you were going to prompt me. So
he's like, yeah, okay. I shook my head. Okay, take me off full screen. Come on.
Welcome, Kieth.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, which it is a busy schedule because backstage you were telling us tomorrow morning, literally, you are taking off on a 6-month journey to the far reaches of the world.
Southeast
So,
Asia.
Yeah. So I mean,
is there a goal with? I mean, why Southeast Asia specifically?
I've been to several of the spots I'm going to, but I haven't been to a lot of them. And I just wanted an adventure, and it was time to sort of branch out and experience some new culture, meet some new people, have some fun. And that's kind of where my head's at these days. So just wanted to go over there, sort of toy with the idea of maybe spending 6 to 8 months a year in that region, and then back in Florida during the nicer months. But there's 2 seasons here in Florida, and one of them's not too fun to be around. So I just assume spend it somewhere where I'm enjoying myself. So
You must be single,
I am.
because I can't imagine having that kind of a freedom any other way. I think it's wonderful. Travel is amazing. And if you have the money and the time to do that, yes, go for it.
Right.
right. Well, I mean, why not? Successful business owner, now accomplished author, and I'm sure there's so many other things in between all of that we're going to touch base on tonight. The hell, you might as well be a world fucking traveler too.
Why not? I agree.
Hey, you fed me and made me happy more than once. So there you go.
You were in my restaurants,
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit real fast here about your background, your restaurant, and how you got involved in all of that to start, if that's cool.
Well, I took off after high school to Arizona to go to college at Arizona State, and I was actually a computer engineering major back in the early days, writing code in the infancy of companies like Microsoft back then. But something told me that it wasn't really what I wanted to do in life, and I was working my way through college in the restaurant business. From the ground level up, I started as a dishwasher and got promoted up the chain, but I had an affinity for it. I liked it. I enjoyed it, and I think I was pretty good at it. So I dropped out of college after a couple of years and said, this is the path I want to take in life, I think. And I just pursued it. I had a few lucky breaks along the way that led me to Aspen, Colorado. And then in turn, my partnership where I opened the Mezzaluna restaurant group, first in Aspen, became wildly successful there. And then we branched out to Beverly Hills and Brentwood, and then took on some other partners to do the Monkey Bar, which was a very high-end celebrity-driven restaurant in West Los Angeles for a while. So, but lifelong career restaurant guy, bars and restaurants, even after the trial, after the tragedy that I was thrust into. I stayed in the business. I went to New York to sort of experience something new and got into the Irish pub business. So for 20 years in New York City, I was on the Upper East Side of Manhattan in a very famous Irish pub called Dorrian's Red Hand, which some people remember had its share of brush with tragedy as well, with the Robert Chambers, Jennifer Levin case, the preppy murder that inspired out of Dorrian's in the mid 80s as well. So that was just by coincidence, by the way. But I had a wonderful time there, met some incredible people, became friends with all the New York Yankees back in the mid 90s, late 90s, when they were winning all the championships, forged some friendships that I'm still honored to say I have up to this day with some very great professional and ex-professional athletes. And it seemed like every year when one of them would get traded or get a little older and retire, they'd introduce me to the whole new batch of guys. And it perpetuated itself for 20 years. Dorrian's was the New York Yankee player hangout in Manhattan. So
did you, sir, get to know George Steinbrenner?
I met him a couple of times. I wouldn't sit here and kid you and say I knew him, because he was a little different kind of personality. So I didn't get to hang out with him, so to speak. But I was introduced to him by one of the co-owners of the Yankees, a fellow named Bill Rose that I was friends with. So he took me into Steinbrenner's office a couple of times and introduced.
You didn't get to hang out with him. Lucky you.
Did not get to hang out. And I understand he wasn't always the
George and I did not get along at all. I mean, George met me and took an instant dislike to me, and I've never known why. But after a couple of times of trying to make nice, I went, I'm done. Stew in your own juices.
Yeah.
I was a huge Yankee fan growing up, so it was was fabulous timing for me, and I'll never forget those days. It's kind of what I needed after what I went through with Nick's murder and the trial and that whole tragedy. It was like a new breath of fresh air in my life at the time.
Sure.
And it got me through, the first few years of that post-tragedy, which were the toughest because it was also fresh and new. But those guys really helped get me through, and I thank them for that.
So first, I'm going to say my youngest daughter of 6 would love you because she's a Yankees fan. In case I haven't portrayed the accent well enough yet this evening, I'm from Boston.
It's okay.
Sorry. But, you've brought up, as you said, Nick or Nicole a couple times here in the first few minutes. And one of the main reasons why we're here is to talk about your book, Stalked, which tells the tale of your relationship with Nicole Simpson, or Nicole Brown Simpson, or Simpson Brown, or however they portray it in the writings now. So tell us a little bit, how did you meet Nicole?
Well, like I said, I had a couple of restaurants in Aspen and 3 in LA. And one glorious winter day that felt like spring in 1992, I was skiing with some friends. And I remember it was just a fabulous day. And at the end of the day, I was on the sun deck where everybody gathers at, après skiing. And I was struck by this vision. I know that sounds kind of corny and hokey, but it's true. It was like a bolt of lightning. I looked across the deck. I saw her in a crowd of about close to 1,000 people, maybe. And I just knew I had to meet her. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know anything about her backstory, but I walked right up to her table where she was at and found a way to work my way into their conversation so I could meet her. I just felt this energy. And obviously she was the most stunningly beautiful woman I'd ever been involved with. So that didn't hurt. But I met her there in Aspen, Colorado. We had one glorious night together, the first night where we hung out. I invited her in for dinner. She had the kids there. She told me right off the bat when I met her that she had fled Los Angeles, grabbed her kids and got out of LA and came to Aspen to get away from her husband because he was abusive. And she had had it. She had had it. She didn't tell me who he was, but she said she came there to get away from him. And she actually used the word asshole, when I said, oh, maybe I know him, the subject of golf came up, and I played LA Country Club and was privileged enough to play reciprocally some other country clubs in LA, one of which was Riviera. And she mentioned it, and she said, oh, my husband, and as she was saying it, she said, ex-husband is a member. And I said, oh, well, I might know him. And she goes, oh, you'd know him. He's an asshole. That was my introduction to who her husband was, without using his name. I didn't find out till later that night after she had come in for dinner. And after dinner with the kids, asked me if I wanted to go out for a drink. The kids went back to the condo with the babysitter, and we went out and we had a fabulous time getting to know each other that night. And it was like lightning in a bottle. And she knew that my Mezzaluna was her favorite restaurant in Los Angeles. It was right down the street from where she lived, both on Rockingham and then the Gretna greenhouse that she first moved into when she first left OJ. When I met her, she had just left OJ. It was very fresh, very new. I was the first guy she sort of ran into and kind of had any feelings for post OJ. So we discussed I would be out there in about a month and a half, like my normal routine. When the season would slow down, I'd head to LA and start doing things with those restaurants. She said she was excited to see me, to kind of pick up where this night had taken us. And we exchanged phone numbers at the end of the evening, early morning, actually. And we kept in touch for, the month and a half until I got out there. And as soon as I got to LA, we picked right up where we left off in Aspen and started a relationship.
Nicole and I and OJ and I had several friends in common. I've never heard anything negative said about her by anybody.
And I'd be hard pressed to find somebody that would say something negative, because she She was an amazing human being. She was the best mother you'd ever want to find, and tough as nails. I mean, she had to be. I mean, look what she put up with. He took her, plucked her out of society at 18 years old when he met her at the Daisy. I mean, that's a well-publicized story that he was much older and married at the time, and he met her and he was smitten with her basically the same way I was when I saw her. She had that quality. So he controlled every aspect of her life. And she, during our course of our relationship and our incredible friendship that we developed, the physical relationship sort of ended because of him. She told me about all the stuff that went on, but he dictated everything to her, how to dress, how to act, how to talk, how to, be in public. So she didn't have a life. So from 18 till her early 30s, when she left him, when I met her, she was Mrs. O.J. Simpson. She wasn't Nicole. She wasn't Nicole Brown. She was barely Nicole Brown Simpson. So she didn't have a life of her own. And when I met her, she was trying to experience that growth most of us do in our early 20s. Meet new people, have new friends, experience different things. That's what she was trying to do. And I'm so fortunate I was there for that short period of time, both in a relationship as a lover, as a boyfriend, and then really as her husband for a year that I felt was more important than the short-lived that we had. So close when we were friends. We talked about everything on a constant basis. I was in Aspen a lot of the time, but the phone was nonstop, and she would fill me in. And then sadly, when she decided to try reconciliation, the reconciliation that ultimately cost her life, OJ sort of snuck up on her. He showed up at parents' house on, I believe it was Easter weekend of 93, after she had been free for a year. And she had always told me that, all she ever really wanted was that family unit. I mean, it was important to her, as shitty of a human being as OJ was, and all the things he put her through, physical, mental, everything else. She still was grasping to that hope that the father of her children and that family unit could somehow, someday be intact. Well, he showed up that Easter weekend at her parents' house and duped her, and told her, I've changed. I've been to therapy. I'm a new man. Give me a chance. Let's just go away. He whisked her away from her parents' house to Mexico, the old standby, Cabo San Lucas. We spent time down there together. They had a timeshare down there together, but he took her away for a kind of whirlwind weekend, and she bit. And she called me up. I didn't talk to her for a few days. Was curious where she was at. She sort of gave me the news in a roundabout way. And I was like, oh my God, you went to LA, or you went to Mexico with OJ? And she told me the circumstances. And she said, Keith, it wasn't that bad, believe it or not. And we talked about it at depth. And when she told me she was going to try this reconciliation, I advised against it. My heart told me it was nothing good was going to come from it. But I was also trying to be that supportive friend as much as I loved her and hoped the entire time that someday we would be together again, so I gave her that freedom, and I was there for her as a sounding board through all this thick and thin. And I told her, I said, Nick, you'll make the right decision. I'm just scared. So go in with your eyes open and your headlights on. I mean, and she did, she kept her own residence. She didn't move back in with him. He tried to, power play her into doing that. She didn't. And then we all know what happened. A year later, she's dead. But the sad part is we still maintained a great friendship, but our frequency of talking became less and less because he hated me. He never got over me. I was the guy that stood toe to toe with him and said, I don't care who you are. I'm not afraid of you. And she told me how that affected him. And he never got over that. He never forgot me. And the proof of that is just listen to those 1993 911 call tapes when he's kicking in the back door of her house and he's screaming, Keith, that motherfucker Keith, and he's screaming my name, all because of pictures of me in her her photo album he saw. And there was a girl that I had a relationship with after Nicole that was working on a movie set with him and said some disparaging things, and he went home and took it out on Nick. And so we were talking during that period of time. We were still very close as friends, but I couldn't call her all the time because I never knew when he was going to be there. So it was touch and go. But that particular incident in October of 93, I knew something bad was going to happen because I got home from a day of doing my normal thing in Aspen, and I had a very odd voicemail from OJ on my home answering machine in Aspen, Colorado. And it was OJ and this girl, who I won't even give her the dignity of mentioning her name, who was working on the movie set with OJ. And they're together on my answering machine. And I froze when I listened to it. I said, oh my God, Nick. I knew that this was going to end badly for Nicole. Tried to call her, couldn't get a hold of her. 3 days later is when she finally got back through to me. Now, remember, I didn't know about the 911 calls, the tapes. I didn't know any of that until the trial when those tapes were released. But I knew something bad had happened. When she finally got through to me, I said, Nick, I'm so sorry, babe. Is everything okay? Are you okay? And she said, no, Keith, I'm not. She goes, it was horrible. And she said, I warned you about that girl, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm so sorry. And she said, Keith, we just can't talk anymore. She said, he hates you. The mere mention of your name and the picture of you set him off so badly. She goes, it breaks my heart. I love you to death, but I got to give this thing 100%, this reconciliation. So we're just going to have to take a break, and we just can't talk, for the time being. And I hung up the phone, and I was devastated and heartbroken. And next time I saw her, I was holding her casket at her funeral. So,
wow.
What is it? This is asking you to just sort of observe and share a feeling. So it's maybe multiple parts. OJ, handsome, sure. Athletic star, sure. Kind of sort of an actor, but famous for that. But Nicole spent many years married to him. Why do you think she kept that going so long? Was it a loyalty thing inside of her, or do you think she was just that deeply in love with him?
She was certainly deeply in love with him. I don't think she even fully understood what kept her there. I remember specifically when she was going through the divorce in 92, when we were dating, and then the friendship afterwards, because I actually lived in her house for 3 months when I was building out the monkey bar. And the only way that was possible was football season. And OJ was out of town, or else that would have never happened. The 3-month period when we had a romantic relationship in March, April, and May of the same year of 92, he was in LA all the time and had all his free time on his hands. So the Stalking, as the book is called, all took place during that period of time. And then when I went back to Aspen and we cooled the romantic part of it and we became best friends, then when I came back later to open the monkey bar, she wanted me to live in the house, in a guest room as a friend, obviously, but it was because he wasn't there. But sorry to get off the point for a second, but she used to go to a psychologist named Susan Friend, I think, or Dr. Friend or anything. But I remember her coming home with a book called Women Who Love Men Who Hate Them, because we got a laugh out of it. She was like, look at this, Keith. And I looked at the title and I was like, well, there you go. And I don't think she fully understood what kept her in it. I know she loved him. And then obviously you add the kids in, when they have 2 kids together, that's a whole nother ballgame. I don't have a personal understanding of that because I've never had children, but I can certainly say from spending my time around Nicole how she felt about it. And that was an unbreakable bond. The father of those children, as bad as he was, as shitty of a human being as he was the father of her children. And that was something that accounted for something to Nick. And I think that was a big part of what certainly what led to the reconciliation try. So to answer your question, I don't know what fully kept her there, but she did love him.
Did you indeed feel threatened? Feel like, were you concerned for your safety?
100%, both while it was happening, after it was happening, and certainly after he was released, after he was found not guilty. I didn't write this book. It's not coincidental that I waited 32 years to write this book. I was offered millions of dollars to write this book back in the 90s. I had some big advances thrown at me and a lot of money, and I considered it while under subpoena, but I was never going to screw up my testimony, so to speak. And it was made very clear to me that if you took any financial gain, and I didn't want to talk about my relationship with Nicole in that forum. I wanted it to come out in the court of law, and I wanted it to be beneficial in putting this guy away. Well, then you wake up and he's a free man, and now my priorities changed. I got to think about self-preservation. Knowing what I know about how he felt about me, and now he's walking the street, I wasn't going to write a book. I wasn't going to talk about the stuff I talk about in this book, the things that he did to Nicole and the way he treated her. I wouldn't have felt safe doing that. So it's no coincidence that I didn't even decide to write the book until he died.
Right.
He died, I said, well, now it's time just to sort of tell my story. I'm not trying to rewrite history.
Oh, no.
And you know, you've got these crime buffs out here that have studied every aspect of this trial inside out more than me. And, you know, on occasion, I'll get a message from someone like, oh, well, you should have talked more about this. You should have talked more about that. You know, you can let these people figure out what they think about the trial on their own terms. I have feelings. I shared a very unique perspective. No one else was privileged to be with Nicole like I was. There were a couple other guys she dated over that year and a half when she was single, between leaving him and reconciling with him. Their names have been put out there. People know about them, but no one endured what we endured. The stalking, the threats, the personal fear. And because of that, we had a kindred spirit. I mean, she told me things about what had happened, you know, in her relationship that I don't think she told her siblings or her parents or her best friends. I mean, she wasn't particularly proud of it. I mean, when you're going to go tell your girlfriend that your husband beat the shit out of you in a hotel room because he came back smelling like another woman and you asked him where he was at, so he beat the shit out of you and locked you in a closet. I mean, she wasn't particularly proud of telling stories like that, but
Right.
she shared it with me because we went through it. I saw his anger. I stood up to him, and she told me, she said, Keith, she goes, no one's ever talked to him that way. She's like, let me just tell you, she goes, don't ever be left alone with him because you don't know what he's capable of. She said, there's two O.J. Simpsons, the one everybody sees and the one no one sees. She goes, you don't ever want to be left alone with that one. She told me that. And I said, and these were my exact words, what's he going to do? Kill me? I mean, I look back on that now, I get chills telling you that.
Yeah.
You know, and that the book obviously is named Stalked. It could have been me, because not only through the circumstance of when he watched us through the window of the night, followed us home in one of his many stalking events that took place when we were dating, followed us home from the Roxbury and watched us making love through the window of her house. I'm totally convinced he tried every door to get into that house that night. Would have probably killed me on the spot if he'd have gotten in, but couldn't. We were locked in there, thank God, safely. But I did leave the house at about 4 a.m. or so, because I would never stay the night. She didn't want the kids to wake up with another man in the house, understandably. And I remember leaving that night, and it was just a calm, eerie kind of silence outside as I walked, not knowing that OJ had watched us. Didn't know until the next day when he came back to the house, kicked in the back door on us, and blew up. So I walked out to my car that was parked in the street, and not knowing. And, you know, in hindsight, I think to myself, wow, if he'd have stuck around a little bit longer, would I still be alive? And then you look at the uncanny similarities where this happened at the Gretna greenhouse where she lived before the Bundy townhouse where she was ultimately murdered, her and Ron. And what he did that night is exactly what he did the night at Bundy. There's a long driveway, and you have to pull up and you have to go through a gate and walk down a long solitary sidewalk that's surrounded on both sides, one by the house and one by shrubbery and trees and stuff like that, through a dark front, up to a dark front door with a big picture window looking into the living room. Look at Bundy. He parked in the back. He came through a gate. He went down a long corridor, almost identical to the one at Gretna Green, rounded the corner to the big picture window in the living room, and that's where the murders took place. So you look at all those facts, and there again, the book's titled Stalked, It Could Have Been Me. And a lot of people thought it was me that morning. Ron Goldman was initially found as an unidentified male. I believe his wallet was knocked out of his pants in the struggle for his life. And the early reporting was, ex-wife of O.J. Simpson and an unidentified male found murdered. And my cousin, Nelson Aspen, who you both know, picked up the phone immediately, was convinced it was me, who was trying to track me down. This was in the era before cell phones were very prevalent. And it wasn't as easy as it is in this day and age to get a hold of somebody. Not a lot of people knew where I was. I was in Atlanta, Georgia at the time. And there were more than a handful of people that were convinced for the first 3 or 4 hours that it was me. And he actually, makes comments through the years after his acquittal, in that stupid book he wrote. He mentions me by name, and his inference is it should have been me. So he never got over me.
Right.
I hope I'm not rambling on, guys.
No. You're
it's very important.
Yeah, these are the perfect style shows because you're telling your story. But I do want to say, folks, if you're interested in the book, just check the show notes up above, down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, because all the links to that book are there. Very simple. Prior to going live tonight, we were in the green room talking. We were talking about your restaurant business and how you open different restaurants. And if you hadn't opened a certain restaurant, then Ron wouldn't have been there. And can you reiterate that just a little bit for our viewers?
Absolutely. I describe it in the book as the butterfly effect. I think everybody's probably familiar with that. I believe it was a book or a movie at one time about how things can all take place differently because of one small event. Well, there came a period of time I had the Mezzaluna Aspen up and running, Mezzaluna Beverly Hills up and running, and it was time for us to open another place. We were approached by a very prominent developer named Sheldon Gordon, who was building Caesar's Forum in Las Vegas, where he was connecting Caesar's Palace and the Mirage hotels together. That what is now a famous, big open palazzo area with retail outlets and restaurant outlets. But there were only 2 or 3 prime restaurant locations in that. And this was before they even broke ground on this. This was all in the planning stages. And Sheldon Gordon was a big fan of our restaurant in Aspen, and he was a regular whenever it was in Aspen. So he approached us and said, listen, man, I think you guys, I got a spot for you in this, it's going to be called Caesar's Forum. I want you guys to have be the anchor tenant in this thing. So Sharif Suki, who was the main man in Mezzaluna, and my buddy Charlie Hood and myself flew to Las Vegas to meet with Sheldon Gordon to go over the proposals for this. I thought it was a home run. I think it would have funded expansion for Mezzaluna nationwide if we'd have done it. I think it would have probably been a $10 million a year unit easily. Sharif, who is Lebanese, didn't understand it, didn't get it. He didn't get Vegas. He didn't think it was going to have an upward trajectory like it ended up having. So he said, no, we're not going to open in Vegas. He was friends with George Santo Pietro, who was Vanna White's husband at the time, who had a pizza joint in Brentwood, California on San Vicente Boulevard. And he was trying to offload that pizza joint, and Sharif was the unsuspecting guy. I didn't like the location, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was a home run. I thought the Vegas one should have been the next thing we did. We really only had the manpower and the finances to do one unit at a time. We were a small company. I was the main operating opening guy. So he made the decision to do Brentwood Mezzaluna instead of doing the Vegas one. So if we don't do Brentwood, if we do Vegas instead, there's never a Mezzaluna on San Vicente Boulevard near Nicole's Bundy condo where Ron Goldman worked. And none of the events of June 12th happened the way they happened. I mean, they couldn't have possibly if that restaurant wasn't there. So, another factor is that OJ always associated Mezzaluna with me. Obviously, some of our stalking events took place in my Mezzaluna restaurants. He knew Mezzalunas were my restaurants. So knowing that she had dinner there that night, and he was pissed off already. We know the story from the dance recital. Went home, did whatever he did with Cato and did his thing. And he went to her house and a guy comes through the gate and Mezzaluna's still on his mind. What do you think he's thinking? He's thinking it's me coming through the gate. It's dark, here's a dark-haired, sort of Italian-looking guy, similar to myself somewhat, coming through the gate in the heat of the moment. I'm convinced he, at least briefly, initially, thought it was me coming from Mezzaluna to Nicole's house. So that's another thing I had to live with all these years. I had left the Mezzaluna restaurant group shortly before the murders. I was in Atlanta looking for locations to do something on my own. So I didn't have the privilege of meeting Ron Goldman. He was hired just after I had left the company. I knew everybody else at that Mezzaluna, Stewart and everybody else who testified in the trial. But Ron, I didn't have the privilege of knowing him. And I always try to give, in the book certainly, but when I do things like this, I want to give him a shout out. I think Ron suffered the ultimate, wrong place, wrong time, and fought bravely to protect Nicole. And I thank him from the bottom of my heart for giving his life to try to save her and protect her and paying the ultimate price.
Right.
Show business, as you know, because of your restaurants and the people you've known, is a very small town, real. When all of these events happened, all of us, the tittle tattle, the gossip, the talking about, because no matter who you knew, one of us knew someone involved in all of this. I'm trying to choose my words carefully. What never made sense to a lot of people who knew the insider stories, not like you did, certainly, were Nicole and Ron buddies who hung out? Were they romantically involved? Nobody seemed to know why he was there. And then the wild card always seems to go back to Cato Kalin. Why was he living in a guest house there? What you said he and OJ did their thing that night. Well, what was their thing?
I can enlighten you a little bit to both of those scenarios.
Please.
In my studying of the case in the trial, I remember I was under subpoena. I believe I was the only witness under subpoena to both the prosecution and the defense. If you can believe that. So I didn't get to watch the trial. I was locked away and forbidden to watch the day-to-day events. So I had to play catch up after the fact. I had to learn a lot of the stuff that took place and study it. And I used a few, investigators and journalists who over the years worked on it to help enlighten me on a lot of things. I'm convinced through everything I've seen and everything I've studied and everyone I've talked to that Ron was really in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think he may have had an interest in Nicole, as every red-blooded, heterosexual male probably did at the time. She was stunningly beautiful. She was amazing to be around. Everyone knew her associated with the restaurants because of our relationship. They saw what a wonderful woman she was. She spent tons of time in there visiting me. She was a great customer. But I think Ron was, just like they say, trying to do something nice. He knew where she lived. She lived right behind the restaurant. Everybody knew that. He was walking to his car. He was trying to drop the glasses off just as a gesture to do something nice. And maybe he was thinking it'll ingratiate me with Nicole. I think he had a crush on her. I think had they not been murdered that night, who knows what would have happened. Nicole had just pulled the trigger on the break day because she was still trying to reconcile with him. Up until that point, the last few weeks were very contentious. We all know that whole thing. But I'm convinced that it was wrong place, wrong time, that there really was no. What was the second part of the question? I'm so sorry. I got off track there.
Why was Cato living in the guest house? What was
when Nicole moved from Gretna Green, at Gretna Green, there was an independent guest house out by the swimming pool, separate from the main house.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to come through the main house, didn't have anything to do with the main house. Came around a gate through the into the backyard, come and go as you please. Nick would never even know if he was there or not. So it was private. Cato was a good dude. I remember meeting Cato, and I thought he was kind of weird in the beginning. I was like, Nick, you got this guy living behind the house. She's like, he's really a nice guy. He helps me with the kids, and it was cool. But what happened was the rent was going up. The lease was coming due on Gretna Green. The rent was going up, and Nick didn't think it made sense to continue to put that money into rent. So she looked to buy a condo, and she settled on the Bundy one. Still being in the neighborhood, across San Vicente from the Gretna Greenhouse and everything. But she still wanted to stay in that neighborhood, keep the kids in the same schools, all that kind of stuff. So she found the Bundy condo, and she offered Cato a room in the Bundy condo. There was like an isolated bedroom downstairs, separate from, hers and the kids' rooms that were upstairs, for a period of time. She didn't want to throw him out on the street. When she was moving, she didn't have a place to go. So she was trying to be nice. It wasn't a no end kind of thing. It was like, stay here for a little bit until you find your own place. OJ is the one that put a kibosh on that. When OJ found out that he was possibly moving into that bedroom in the Bundy townhouse, he put his foot down because he didn't consider Cato a threat when Cato was living in the house behind Gretna Green. When Cato all of a sudden might move into the actual under the same roof with Nicole, OJ flipped out about it. And OJ said, no, screw that. You can move into my guest house behind my house, because he didn't want Cato living in that house. And Nick was pissed about that. Nick never forgave Cato for that. So they were friends. That led to split up in their relationship. I mean, she considered it a betrayal. I mean, she thought, how could you move into OJ's house? She was brought up with OJ. She was trying to get away from it. So she considered that a betrayal by Cato. So that's how Cato ended up in OJ's house.
And seemingly formed some sort of relationship with OJ.
Yeah, I mean, he was Cato's a likable dude. I think OJ tolerated him just to get him out of Nicole's house. But says I had a couple podcasts with Cato. That's why he felt a little weird when he went to OJ, because that's not something he would normally do. But you'll have to ask Cato a little more detail about that side of this.
Well, I have. I am going to censor my words because I don't want to get sued for saying anything, implying anything. What the world was told and what some people heard were very different things. And it always confused me why legally there wasn't more pressure to tell what was being said privately. Now, I've tap danced around that. Am I coming across clearly?
Yeah. Are you saying that why Cato wasn't pressured more to divulge some stuff that he might know, some insights?
Yeah.
Might know?
Yeah.
Is that kind of
yes?
I can't answer that question. I can say that I think there was a lot more information there that probably could have been told, but who knows how people are going to react in circumstances like that. I think he was scared. I don't think he wanted to be in that situation. I don't think anybody wanted to be in that situation. And I think he tried to, I'm going to defend him a little bit just because I think he tried to do the best he could during that period of time. Do I wish he'd been more pro Nick and anti OJ in his testimony and in his statement and stuff? Absolutely. I think he could have helped a lot more. I think he was nervous. Who knows?
Did he freeze? I think he
is.
froze. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
So folks, just Keith is in Florida, and they have some storms moving through, which from watching our show, that if the squirrels don't run really, really fast out in the cage and the storms come through, we have a little bit of interference, but it's not that bad. We just work through it. We keep going, So, I mean, we are getting close to time. We still have about, 15 minutes or so. So is there anything that you want to touch on this evening that we haven't discussed or touched on yet?
Well,
I mean, we kind of let you tell your whole story, which was great. And we don't want to give away all the meat and bones of the book. Again, folks, if you want the book, check the show notes. But is there anything that, wait a minute, I know something. You just had a birthday.
I did just have a birthday.
Yeah.
Nick's birthday, we used to celebrate our birthdays together. Birthday's on May 10th. Nick's is on the 19th of May. So we would always celebrate our birthdays together.
So literally your birthday was on Mother's Day.
It was on Mother's Day this year.
Yeah.
Mother's Day periodically. So
Ben, is that my cue?
I think you should, because you are an amazing jazz singer, which everybody knows. And every time we have a guest on that their birthday is like really close, I make you call my kids and sing to them. So yes, you should. You should.
All right. Let me embarrass this nice man. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Keith. Happy birthday to you. Yay.
Thank you.
That's a close second to Marilyn singing to the president, but
You're going to have to forgive. I'm a little hoarse because I was in the recording studio yesterday recording a theme song for another show we're doing, and I recorded half of a jazz album yesterday afternoon. So I'm a little hoarse, but that's from me to you, sir.
So let me just, when you said, is there anything else I want to go over? I want to just tell the listeners, I want to kind of describe the gravity of one sort of 1 week period of time, and you can read more detail about the book. But imagine this, if you can, that I wake up in Atlanta to a phone call that the woman I loved dearly was murdered brutally. I know in my heart instantly that he either did it or had something to do with it. As the evidence starts to come out a little bit, I'm pushed more to the, to the thought process that he actually did it. But I race out to LA in 2 days as quickly as I could at the parents' request to be a pallbearer at her funeral. So I show up the night before. Everything happened so quickly. So I find out she's murdered. I race out there. I get to the church in the morning. I'm a pallbearer at Nick's funeral, and OJ's still a free man. The Bronco chase didn't happen until the day after the funeral. A lot of people don't realize that. So I'm holding the casket of the woman I loved dearly, and I'm standing 2 feet away from the guy who murdered her, knowing that he murdered her and having to get through that whole process. As this is all going on, I haven't talked to Nick since October of '93 because of him. He forbid us to have any conversations. I was heartbroken about that. Now I'm holding the casket and I see her family face to face for the first time. We talked a couple times on the phone, obviously, when they invited me out, asked me to please come out. And they approached me at the funeral and in real time tell me that they were talking about me that night at dinner. They say, Keith, do you know what we were talking about? And I'm like, well, you. I mean, Nick said she was going to come to Aspen and surprise you, or I can't remember if she was going to call me and surprise me or come to Aspen and surprise me. But now I'm holding her body, standing next to the guy who killed her, being told that the woman I loved dearly was thinking of me, talking about me 2 hours before she was murdered. So imagine the scope of emotions that I'm going through. Then the next day is the Bronco chase, where I tell a very interesting story in the book about how OJ was on his way over to Nicole's condo where I was approaching at the time, when nobody knew where he was at, when he was running from the law. And he called the condo and said he was on his way over to finish what he started. As I was walking up to the condo, we didn't know if that meant kill me, kill them, the Brown family, kill himself. We didn't know what any of that meant. But that's the next day. And then 2 days later, I'm on the witness stand testifying in front of the grand jury. So imagine that week, the range of emotions, what I had to go through. And then
Couldn't imagine it.
well, and then my whole life gets thrown into turmoil, because when I testified for the grand jury, I was Marcia Clark. I talk about this in detail in the book because I think the prosecution was rushed. I think it was a little haphazard, but I was sworn to that, anything I say inside that room will never be made public information. It's a sealed grand jury. It's the most sanctimonious of all legal proceedings, and all the bullshit terms they used to describe it to me. You just go in there and you tell your story, and no one's ever going to know. You can go home and live a normal life and everything will be cool, and blah, 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 blah. And it was tough to get through the grand jury if you've never been in that process. I'm trying to tell stories that involve Nicole. So a lot of it's hearsay. I'm getting shut down, and it's kind of a nerve-wracking process. But point being is, 2 days later, they disbanded the grand jury, and you could buy my testimony for $1 at the county courthouse. Now, every media producer and star now knows exactly who I am and what my story is and what my testimony was. And now I'm the boyfriend. Now they got to get me. So my life just went like this. So everything that was going on before that, as crazy as it seemed, it wasn't being played out in public. Then it became played out in public. I couldn't go anywhere, do anything. I'm sneaking out of houses and trunks of cars and, disguises and the whole thing, and I'd open my bathroom window in the morning while I was shaving, and there'd be a TV camera, the big offers for books and, Barbara Walters and Connie Chung and 60 Minutes and all the tabloid programs, throwing money at me, National Enquirer, all that stuff.
So literally, stalked isn't just one person stalking you.
Had a dual meaning. Yeah.
This is layers of stalking. I'm so sorry this happened to you, Keith.
Thank you.
I am too. But if it didn't happen, we wouldn't be here talking about it either.
And I can only play the hand that was dealt to me,
Right.
I've got some regrets. Obviously, I wasn't used by the prosecution. I was used in the grand jury, depoted for the civil trial, brought out to testify in the custody trial. The prosecution, when everything skewed racist, and got off track, and the whole thing started to tumble out of control, they felt, the way they explained it to me was, they felt my testimony might actually be detrimental as a white man with the racial makeup of the jury and the way the race card was being played, that they almost thought that I wouldn't play well to the jury because of my skin color. So how do you think that made me feel? I wanted to help Nick and Ron. I wanted to put this guy away. I wanted to tell what I knew and help, and I couldn't. And so there's a lot of regret there. Yeah. So,
it's an unfortunate situation, but I think what our viewers and our listeners got out of what we've talked about this evening this far is that there was a love between the two of you, which
Still,
right, there was that soul connection.
you asked me about, you made the comment I must be single. That's how I'm pulling off this long trip. I never got married. I never had kids. I never fell in love again. I just couldn't replace that void that was left when Nick was murdered. I went and had relationships, and I had some very nice relationships with some young ladies along the way. But I could never go to the next level. I could never pull the trigger on it. I could never reach that level of love that I had for her and still do. And I look forward to seeing her someday. I'm getting up in age now. I'm just turned 65. I don't have that much longer left on this planet. And I almost, don't get me wrong, I don't want to die, but I almost look forward to the day because I know that somehow, some way we'll be reunited again. And I look forward to seeing her. So.
Well said.
Well, I'm older than you are, so you've got 30 years left at least.
I'm gonna make the best of it.
Absolutely.
I hope this 6-month journey for you is filled not just with a whole lot of fun and good food, but you get spiritually fed too.
There's some spirituality. Part of the reason I'm going to some of the places I'm going is for that very reason. So
I figured that part out already. Yeah.
Yep. So. Yep. Most definitely.
Good for you, my friend. Good for you.
Thank you, guys.
So we are coming up on time, folks. So, Mr. Mark, do you have a last question for this amazing guest?
I kind of sort of do. I'm going to ask for an opinion. Something about the story you've told, the ending, the part you had nothing to do with, has always just stuck in me. When he was acquitted, and let's, for the purposes of being ridiculously bending over backwards the wrong way, let's assume for half a second he was actually innocent. When he was acquitted, do you remember the footage taken by every camera in the world back at, it was his house or his mother's house, of his family coming out with bottles of champagne and crystal glasses, drinking, laughing, partying? And I'm watching this and thinking, yeah, except the mother of your grandchildren is still dead, and so is this other innocent man dead. How dare you have the bad taste to party in front of cameras? Did that hit you the same way?
Yeah, he's a sociopath, and I'm convinced that as he was walking away, dripping blood from that crime scene, he convinced himself he didn't do it. Yeah, that's the kind of person you're dealing with there. So to see him celebrating with champagne, that was almost like an afterthought. That's a joke. I mean, put down the champagne and go find the real murderer, that you swore you were going to spend the rest of your life seeking the true murderers of Nick and Ron. That didn't last very long, but like you said, imagine for 1 minute that he was innocent. That's just his personality. But I don't know, man. I've analyzed everything about this scenario backwards and forwards, and I just got to try to make a little peace with myself sometimes. And I'm glad he's gone, is all I can say. I'm surprised it took as long as it did. I'm surprised somebody didn't do something about it before, but I don't know.
Well,
he didn't.
I'll say something, my friend. You have nothing for which to feel guilty. There is nothing you could have done differently. Mm-hmm. Things happened the way they happened, out of your control. Please forgive yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. No, I agree with that. So, I generally don't ask a last question because we have another co-host, but like I said at the beginning of the show, he's taking some time off, kind of doing the same thing you are, only he is married with him and his wife are going to take some time and have some fun with their golden years, I guess they're called.
I'll let you know.
So we've talked a lot tonight about, your background, restaurants, your love with Nicole, what the things that have happened, your book. Again, check the show notes, folks, up above, down below. But tell our viewers and us, what is something that Keith totally geeks out about? Like, we've had people on the show that geek out over like sunken ships or history or Legos. I mean, is there something that nobody really knows that, like, this is Keith's thing right here, man?
Well, we talked a little bit about this before, but I'm a Yankee fan through and through. But that's known. So I'll tell you something. The water and the peace I find when I'm diving, when I'm in the water. I'm a sailor. I'm a 50-ton Masters Coast Guard captain. I started a charter business down in Key West during COVID out of sheer boredom, and had upwards of 20 vessels in charter fleets down there just as a side gig. But something most people don't realize about me is that I'm at home in and on the water more than most people. And I find peace and solace in that. And this journey that I'm going on to Southeast Asia is both spiritual, like we just talked about, but a lot of that spirituality will come from being in my element and doing some dives and being with nature and seeing some old wrecks, which I find interesting. And I kind of think about the people who were on them and think about the tragic circumstances. And anyway, just to answer your question as shortly as I can, not take too much time, I'm a water guy. I love being on it, in it, and everything about it. So,
see, I would have never thought that. I thought I figured you'd be like a food cuisine, all this new food that I'm going to eat. But no, water. I like that. That's
no, you don't get the kind of tan he has from cooking.
Well, yeah, but you don't get that kind of tan being under all the water either.
On a boat, you do.
On a boat, you do. On a boat, you do. So, with that, folks, we're going to wrap this bad baby up here. So, Keith, social media wise, where do you like to interact with fans or friends?
My Instagram page is public, so people can follow me at Kieth Zlomsowitch, my full name. Facebook, I'm a little more private about. I don't do the TikTok or Twitter kind of thing, but people can follow my journeys on my Instagram page. I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff about my upcoming trip. And the book itself is on Amazon. I do have a dedicated website that I started. I couldn't get the name of the book as the website name. It was already taken. Stalked was already taken, but I settled on ojstalkedme.com. So you can go, all one word, ojstalkedme.com. You can go to that website to order the book, find a link to order the book, or go straight to Amazon. And on that website, it tells you a little more about myself, and there's a lot of photos that sort of contextualize me as a person, kind of thing. It's a way of interacting with me somewhat. And you can reach out to me via email, which is listed on that website as well, if you've got some questions or comments for me. Hopefully nice. And that's kind of my story.
There you go, folks. Very simple. Mr. Mark.
Yes, sir. You want to reach
question.
out to me, Jeffrey Mark, just as it's, where is it? There. Just as it's spelled right there. Or if you're listening only, GeoffreyMark on Facebook, Jeffrey Mark Showbiz on Instagram. And say, if you're enjoying us here, there is another show Ben and I do together. It's called GPE, Jeffrey Mark Plays Ella, where I play the music of Ella Fitzgerald on a theme and then tell you insider stories about the music, the songs, the performances, and the great Miss Ella Fitzgerald herself. And you can find that on every platform and channel and network where you find this wonderful show. I'm the host. Ben is the producer, and we'll see you there. And by the way, seeing people, aren't you having a little vacation, Ben?
I am. So you can check us out, stilltoking.com. That has everything you need to know about Mr. Jeff Holman, who is on hiatus. Myself, from the novel to the comic book series to the TV series to the animation to this amazing show, which all 7 seasons are there. You just stilltoking.com. Toking with the Dead on Facebook, Still Toking Productions, everywhere else. But yeah, next weekend, so the 23rd and 24th, we will be down in Monroeville, Pennsylvania at the Steel City Cannabis Convention and the Mega Reptile Show, signing autographs. So if you're in the area, you can do a 2-for-1. I mean, you can go look at snakes and alligators and skunks and God, there's all kinds of shit there. Or if you can't make it down there, jump on the channel. We're going to be broadcasting live, interviewing some really cool people and pets. But in all seriousness, to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. Oh, no, actually, we won't see you next week.
That's why I brought it up.
2 weeks. We are gone for 2 weeks. So you won't see us again till June, this show. But you'll see us live on the road next weekend.
And you'll see the
Be
Ella
safe.
show. And while you're away doing all those wonderful things, I will be completing my new album, Jeffrey Mark Sings the Ella Fitzgerald Songbook. So we're busy boys.
There you go. And Keith, Keith's going to be over that side of the world. I'm not going to tell you where.
Watching Yankee games at 7 a.m.
Yankee games at 7 a.m. So if you see a guy sitting there having a cocktail and some nice cuisine, watching a Yankees game, go wish him a happy belated birthday. Buy him something nice. Buy his book. There you go.
Buy
If
his
you
book.
buy his book and you're over in any of those areas he's going, he might even sign it for you.
Absolutely.
Just saying. So with that, folks, be safe. We will see you next week. We're out of here.
Have a happy.